Our program is about to begin. Please take your seat. As a reminder, please turn off all cell phones, pagers, and BlackBerries. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, to introduce this morning's keynote speaker, please welcome a popular PCBC speaker, tech enthusiast, and new media junkie, Mr. Mike Lyon.
Hey guys, wow, this is going to be awesome. You guys are in for a treat. Listen, real quick, everybody turn their heads, turn it back to the back where it's dark and they got those lights. Let's give the PCBC crew and everybody behind the scenes a big round of applause. Anybody you see walking around with a headset, these guys made the whole show happen, and we love PCBC, don't we, guys? Okay, so, oh man, this is gonna be good. Let me tell you something. Last year they said, who should we have as a speaker? First words out of my mouth, Gary Vaynerchuk. Right, Mike? I mean, we gotta get this guy. And let me tell you why. In 2006, 2007, everybody starts, social media starts coming around. What, we can do this? How can we do this? Everywhere you turn, Twitter, Facebook, blogging, Gary Vaynerchuk, and everybody's like, who's this guy? What's up with his name, right? And he was doing things that we didn't think was even possible. He created the biggest wine brand with a flip cam in 2006, shooting videos, posting videos. This is stuff we hadn't seen before. And really what's great about Gary is he's a businessman first, right? So he's making money from this stuff, which we all want to make money, yes? You guys want to make money? Yeah. Making money, and he's using these new media tools to engage the audience, get the eyeballs going, and he took what he learned from his business practice and he put it into a great book, Crush It, best-selling book. Thank You Economy, just released, best-selling book. And now he has VaynerMedia in New York just opening up in San Francisco. This guy is absolutely amazing. Beyond that, he's probably one of the best presenters you're ever going to see. No pressure, Gary, okay? I want you guys to welcome best-selling author, new media mogul, and the future owner of the New York Jets. Put your hands together real loud. Come on, here we go. Gary Vaynerchuk.
Good morning. How you guys doing? Well, awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for the intro. But I want to kind of figure out where I want to take this talk, and I'm going to actually assume a lot of you have no idea who I am. So just real quick, out of this audience, how many of you know exactly who I am and my spiel? Raise your hand. That hurts. Shit. That was a tough way to start a keynote. I actually pretty much assumed that, which made this a lot of fun for me. I get to speak in a lot of different kind of places, but when I get an audience where I know most people don't know who I am, it allows me to set it up, and a little bit of the thunder was taken off by the intro, which I appreciate, but it is true. I only love social media for one reason, because it sells stuff. My context and knowing who you guys are in this room, I have no interest in technology. I'm not excited about gadgets or trinkets. To me, my backstory will give you context on who I am, why it's important, how I built businesses with traditional media and a lot of things that I think you guys are spending your dollars on, and why that was relevant in 1998 when I was doing it, but far less relevant today, and where these things are going. And I'll take it up here and then we'll try to take it down here. My backstory is pretty simple. I have a very immigrant background. I was born in Belarus, which is in the former Soviet Union. I came to the US when I was 3 years old, and we immigrated here. It was actually quite a tough time. It was the late 70s. My dad was actually a builder in the Soviet Union, and he came here, and his great uncle was a big contractor, owned a lot of property in Edison, New Jersey, and other parts of New York and New Jersey, and that's where he was gonna work. Some of you, since you've probably been in this business for a little while, do remember the late 70s wasn't the greatest time, kind of similar to what we just went through. And since there was no work, one of the odd jobs that my dad got was working in a liquor store in Clark, New Jersey while we lived in Queens, New York. I still bust my dad's chops because he was getting paid $3 an hour, and I think it cost him more on gas to get there than he was actually making. I lived in a studio apartment with 9 family members, which was ridiculously difficult because one of them was my insane great-grandmother. So it was kind of one of those scenes. We finally got a little bit of an opportunity. My dad became the manager of the store, and we moved to New Jersey, and that's kind of where my entrepreneurial career began. When I was 5 years old, I had a lemonade stand chain, 8 locations. I put all my friends to work, which was tremendous. With Facebook, everybody coming back and like crying about that. Do you guys remember Big Wheels? Do you remember those little, those things, right? I used to ride my Big Wheels around Edison, New Jersey to pick up my cash from my friends in their posts, like I was little Tony Soprano or something. So it was good, that was a good little business, made a couple $100 in a couple summers, and so that was great. And then when I was 12, I really kind of took off. I started a baseball card business where I was making $2,000 to $3,000 a weekend selling baseball cards in the malls of New Jersey, which was a great business. I don't know about you guys, but when you have $25,000 in cash under your bed and you're 13 years old and you're not selling weed, you're doing a good job. So I was proud of myself, it was great. I thought I was gonna open up, 8,000 baseball card stores and be the McDonald's of baseball cards, and that was gonna be my life, and I was pumped, and that was it, and that's where I was going. And then one fateful day, my dad ruined my life. I was getting ready for the biggest card show of the year. It was at the Raritan Expo Center in New Jersey. I was super pumped, paid my $1,000 for the table, got ready all week, super pumped, ready to go, and my dad walks in and says, "You're coming to work at the store." First generation, oldest son, Saturday. I don't know how many of you have Soviet fathers, but I lost the argument between me going to the card show versus working at the store. So I did what I did back then. I started crying and being very upset, cried the whole way. We lived 40 minutes away from the store, and I literally cried the whole way until about 3 minutes before I was thinking about the $1,000 I lost, all the fun I was gonna have. Now I'm going to work at the store, I don't care, I don't want to. I composed myself and asked my dad how much he's gonna pay me, and he says $2 an hour, and then I really started fucking crying. And so that was bad, and for the next 2 years of my life, no joke, from 14 to 16 years old, I spent every single weekend and every holiday and every summer day. I mean, the bell rang of the last day of school, and the next day I was at the store until the bell rang of the first day. Every day I worked at my dad's store for $2 an hour, being in the basement of the store for 12 hours a day, bagging ice. That's what I did. And so, as you can imagine, that sucked. Shit. And I hated it. And then finally, when I was 16, I was allowed to come upstairs, which was amazing. And I was allowed to finally dust shelves and do this. And then halfway through, and I wasn't your atypical teenager, I actually didn't give a crap about beer or liquor. I wasn't interested in like stealing a 6-pack and bringing it home. There was nothing interesting about it for me. So I really, really hated it. I went from making $3,000 or $4,000 a weekend selling what I loved and being the boss and hanging out with my friends and girls at the malls of Jersey to making $20 a day bagging ice. It was devastating. It was a dark period in my life. I really don't want to talk about it anymore. Then when I was finally allowed to be upstairs, a very interesting thing happened. I was packing some shelves, and I noticed that 20 to 30 people in a row on this Saturday came in and asked for the same thing that we had sold out of in the prior week, I learned, which was the Caymus Cabernet Special Select 1990. It was just named the wine of the year by the Wine Spectator, and everybody was asking for it. We had sold out, and we had a small parking lot in this liquor store, so we were always worried about moving people quickly. And I was thinking, man, all these people are coming in, they're asking for the wine, and they're leaving. It didn't seem like a smart business move. So I said, the next person that walks in, I'm going to take a back order. We don't have a back order system, but I don't care because I'm going to school on Monday and I won't have to deal with it anyway. So the next person comes in, do you have the Caymus cab? I go, no sir, but actually I'll take a back order, we'll try to get it for you, your name, address. He said, I said, how many bottles would you like? He said, I'll take 6 cases. I said, oh shit, an alcoholic. I go, 6 cases? He said, yeah. I said, are you having a huge party? He said, no, I collect wine. And that was it. You know how you hear a song or you smell a scent and you can literally think of a moment? As I'm telling you this right now, I don't know if you guys can zoom in, goosebumps, I literally remember that moment because it changed my life. I so desperately wanted to help the family business, mainly because I thought I was a much better businessman than my dad, but I didn't want to because I wasn't interested in it. I wasn't passionate about selling Absolut Vodka or Budweiser. But this wine thing was kind of interesting. It changed every year, so it relied more on marketing. People didn't know anything about it, so I could storytell and all these things that were kind of interesting to me as a marketer. And so knowing that people collected wine spoke to me, and I literally stood in the store and said, Wayne Gretzky, Frank Thomas, Barry Bonds, Silver Oak, Caymus, Opus One, same shit. I can do this. And so I took all my passion of learning about sports and put it into wine. And at 16 years old, I decided I was gonna open up 800 liquor stores, wine shops actually, and become the biggest wine retailer in the world. And it's all I wanted to know. The amount of knowledge I had at 17 years old about wine should be illegal. It was a completely insane thing. I went all in science class and in English class in high school. I wasn't listening, I was reading the Wine Spectator. I just went completely all in. In 1998, I took over operations for my family's liquor store business, Shoppers Discount Liquors. I rebranded it to Wine Library and launched WineLibrary.com actually in 1997, the year earlier. From 1998 to 2003, this is where it gets relevant for you guys. From 1998 to 2003, I grew the family business from a $3 to a $60 million business. I did that even though my Wikipedia and legend now has it that I did it with social media. I did a lot of that on traditional marketing. I did that by putting up billboards on the highways in New Jersey. If you ever flew into Newark, you might have saw big Wine Library billboards. I did it by buying full page ads in the Star Ledger and the New York Times. I did it by buying full page ads in the Wine Spectator. I did it with direct mail. I did it with local TV commercials. I marketed and I ran a low margin and I didn't pay myself a lot of money and I built a big database and I built a business. And that's great and that's interesting and cool and awesome. But the main thing I did was I innovated. In 1997 and 1998, when everybody was doing catalogs and sending it out to people to buy their wine, or if they were really gnarly, they faxed their customers. Remember that shit? I was emailing when nobody even knew. I mean, the first people I asked for email in 1998, I would say, sir, do you have an email service? I'll put you on my new email service where we email our best wines. They're like, yeah, I think I do. My email's AOL@yahoo.com. I mean, people didn't even remember, right? It was that early, and that innovation spiked my business. That became the foundation, then I marketed, then I converted. My friends, the reason I'm standing here today is because in 2006, while I was building this large business, I recognized that YouTube had come out and it was interesting to me. I thought, wow, I think people are actually gonna watch this. And I started a wine show to educate the wine world. And I did it for a couple reasons. One, I wanted to build brand equity. Two, there was something about wine that bothered me. How many people in this room have friends or relatives that are really fairly into wine? They really are into wine. Raise your hand, I'm just curious for context. Okay, about 90% of you. So the 90% of you in this room know what I know, which as soon as somebody gets a little bit of wine knowledge, when you go out with them, they become straight douchebags. Right? Oh, you should smell that. Oh, that's a wrong year, you idiot. Fuck you. Anyway, so I was pissed about that. I'm not that kind of dude. I knew a crap load about wine, and I thought it was time for people to actually talk to people about wine instead of talking down to people about wine. I mean, people, very confident people. There's people in here with multi-million-dollar businesses, and when you're in a business meeting and somebody hands you the wine list, you shudder. I mean, people really, really were nervous about wine and things of that nature. I thought that was insane. Nobody's scared about like which burger you should order or how you should cook your meat, but what wine you should pair with, everybody kind of shuddered. So I wanted to change that, and I wanted to use technology. And the way I marketed that show is the reason I'm standing here. That show, which we allocated no money to, I didn't market through the $30,000 full page ads and all the other things I did. I marketed through what I saw a new way of marketing, which was that the web was maturing. Guys, let me say a couple things that you should know. First of all, there is no such thing as social media. It's a word that we're using to categorize the internet itself right now. We called it Web 2.0 a couple years ago, and we're gonna call it something else in the future, augmented web reality. Whatever we're gonna call it, it's the fucking internet. And so when you stand here and you say, well, I don't know what the ROI, or I don't know if I believe in social media, you're saying that you don't believe in the internet. The internet is the #1 culture shift of all time. Forget the printing press, forget everything else. The internet is the biggest culture we are living through. You are sitting here right now and are fortunate enough to be living in the early days, because remember, we haven't been on the web that long. It's only been about 15 years since AOL spammed our actual mailboxes and sent us CDs to get us on. It is not a long period of time. As a matter of fact, how many people in this room do not remember the world pre-internet? Raise your hand, you do not remember the world, and I don't mean you drank too much last night and you can't remember. I mean, you're 20 years old and you do not remember. Raise your hand if you do not remember the world pre-internet. Not a single one of you. This thing, is there one? How old is she? 24, 15, 9. It's a fucked up memory, but I'll let you go. Okay. One person here does not remember pre-internet. And yet, this is the biggest culture shift of our time. I'm trying to get you to understand why you're spending marketing dollars, if you're making those decisions or you work on it, on places with deteriorating returns on the investment and not investing in where we're all clearly going. It's only about one thing. The reason I bought all that media, and I spent tens of millions of dollars over a decade on media. The reason we spend money on media, or you guys spend effort on whatever it is, commission, whatever you're doing, all it's about is getting attention to tell your story about your project, to convert and sell it. This is a very simple game. Supply and demand, attention, conversion, let's move on. Rinse and repeat, right? So all we really care about is attention, yet the attention of the people that you're trying to sell these products to are shifting on you while you're worrying about, well, we have to be there because it's about branding. It's tried and true. You're comfortable with it. This is a massive mistake, and this is why people go out of business. Every day, people are making decisions that innovation is going to put them out of business. This is the biggest culture shift of all time. Let me ask you guys a question. Let's make this real. How many people here, and don't lie, lying is the devil. How many people here, and don't half-ass hand me, I want full hands. How many people here said the following thing 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5, maybe even 2? Most likely you said it to yourself, but you might have had a conversation with your friend. How many people here said the following, do not lie? How many people said, I'm not getting a Facebook account. Facebook is for kids, or I'll never have one. Why would I ever go on Facebook? Don't lie. If you ever thought or said that, raise your hand, don't lie. Tremendous. About 80% of you at one point said that. Just curious, of the people that said that, how many of you are on Facebook right now? Don't lie, raise your hand. About 70%. As a matter of fact, about 70% of you said that you would not be on there, and now you're on there because people love to draw lines in the sand. They love to draw lines in the sand of what we're not gonna do, but then you do them. The reason I will buy the New York Jets one day is all I think about is the things that you say you won't do, that I know you will do, and then I try to build businesses around that. Real quick, because I kind of looked at the hand ratio, how many people here are not on Facebook? If you're not, please just stand up for 1 second. Please stand up. It's no big deal. I'm gonna clap for you. Hold on, stay up, please stay up, sir. Get back up. Guys, let's clap it up for these 40 people to fight technology. That's tremendous. By the way, guys, when this talk is over, your horse is outside to take you back to your hotel. Jesus fucking Christ. It's 2012. No, but I get it, and I understand, and actually I could care less about Facebook or anything like that. I totally get it. That was, by the way, just to put in context, the room we're sitting in, the most percentage of people I've ever seen in the 100 talks that I've ever given of people not on Facebook. So that's kind of interesting insight for me. Let's clap it up for ourselves, because that's pretty interesting. How many people in this room said the following thing 15 years ago? This one's gonna hurt. You're gonna wanna lie about it, but please don't, because lying is the devil. How many people 15 years ago said, I'm not getting a cell phone. Why would I want anybody to call me anytime they want? I know a lot of you did this. This is an older crew, don't fuck with me. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. About 30 of you. Just curious, of the 30 of you, how many of you do not have a cell phone? Raise your hand. 0. Oh, holy shit. Ma'am, you do not have a cell phone?
The same way today.
Good for you. What's your name?
Lynn.
Lynn, give me a hug. You are amazing. Guys, Lynn, that's fucking insane. Lynn, good for you. Wow. We are living through the biggest culture shift of our time. How many of you have children 12 to 18 years old, or a niece or nephew or grandchild that you're very close to? Raise your hand. 12 to 18. Remember this conversation 3 years ago? Little Ricky, I don't care how you talk to your friends, but when your father calls, you pick up the phone. Remember that? I'm not texting you, you little fucker. Remember that? Remember that? Just curious, how's that working out for you? The reason you're texting is not because little Ricky or Sally were so smart, they had technology on their side. When Blockbuster, they're bored, 10 guys, very smart, 10 guys who created over $1 billion worth of business in their careers collectively, more by the way, sat in a room 7 years ago and said, should we buy this Netflix thing for $20 million? And they said no, they fucked up. When the guy that bought 400 horses the day before Henry Ford created the car, that guy lost. Innovation doesn't care about you or me, it's just gonna continue to happen. And unless you figure out how to use it, it will run you over. You guys are looking to find the attention of the end consumer. Yet, we continue to spend money on things that we don't, and listen, I do it too. I ran a direct mail campaign 6 months ago just to get a taste of what it used to be. It used to be such a huge component of how we built Wine Library, and I wanted to get a taste. How many of you here market in your companies with direct mail? Raise your hand. Just curious. It's okay, I do too. There's some hesitant hands. How about newspapers? Raise your hand. Outdoor media. Magazines. Let's go to outdoor media, because there's a lot of hands on that. I'm a big fan of that. I used to love putting my face on billboards. I lived in Manhattan, driving to Jersey to the store, would wave by myself. Oh, you look good. Hey, Gary. I love that. I love outdoor media. Outdoor media. When you leave this conference, I want you to do good old Gary just one favor. When you go home and you drive for the next time, remember this talk. This is the only thing I want you to remember. And when you're driving, I want you to look to the left and right, and you're driving, and look at 5 people driving. I'm going to predict that 3 of them will be texting. Oprah's right, it's dangerous out there. I've never been more aware while I've driven, because if you look, people are texting while they drive at scale. 3 to 2 of the people that you look at 5 will be texting. So guys, I have bad news. People aren't looking at your billboards. They're not even looking at the fucking road. And the people that raise their hand, about 30, 40 of you that do direct mail for your business. Just curious, how many people here feverishly run home, open their mail, and go through all their direct mail? Wanna raise your hand? We are marketing in a way that is not relevant anymore. And listen, my company, VaynerMedia, social media agency, we mainly work with Fortune 500 companies, the best marketers in the world, Pepsi and Campbell's, the NFL, these are clients of mine. And I continue to tell them, we're marketing like it's 2007 in a 2013 world. There is so much coming. How many people here have a Facebook fan page for their business? Raise your hand. How many people feel, this is quite a bit, great job. Pretty much everybody else who is on Facebook. How many feel, and this is an honest question, this is a tougher question, very difficult because we're in our early days. How many feel that their Facebook fan page has been effective, really effective for their business? Raise your hand. 7 or 8, good. So here's the problem with all the brands that I'm consulting with, and the problem and the reason people are struggling with the ROI of social media. For the last 100 years, marketing has been about us pushing our message down the consumer's throat. For the last 100 years, whether it was radio, go back to when it was smoke signals. From the beginning of time, let's go further. When we used to draw things into caves. From the beginning of time, it was us storytelling and pushing our content down the consumer's throat. The guy or gal who had the most money and the right medium got the most awareness. Back in the day when Happy Days had a 30% share, when Procter & Gamble bought those commercials, they got a lot of awareness. They bought commercials, they pounded down the throat. For the last 100 years of modern marketing, whether it was radio when people used to sit around and listen to the ball game, oh, this is a good game. Then they would get interrupted and somebody would push their Ballantine's beer down the throat. When you were reading the Wall Street Journal, you were reading an article and then you had to go to the next page because there were ads around it. When you were riding in the radio and listening to those awesome tunes, it got broken up because they had to push product down your throat. You're driving, it's in your eye. You're watching TV, you didn't watch it like a movie, they stopped it and they pushed product down your throat. For the last 100 years, even when this great thing that I'm in love with, the internet, came along, we pushed down people's throats. You go to a website, do you know that there's studies now that people around 24 years old don't even see the right side of a website, physically don't see it, because their eye has been trained not to look there because that's where the ads have been. We have been pushed on, remember pushed and pushed and pushed, pushed and pushed and pushed. We've been pushed on for the last 100 years. For the first time ever, the consumer has a voice. A lot of you don't want to do Facebook or Twitter because you're worried about the consumer being able to attack you or protest you online like they do outside or whatever it may be. People are scared, but that's happening with or without you. Not being part of the conversation is not an option. For the first time ever, when you push out content, people can respond to it in real time. Before, you bought a couple billboards or magazine ads or newspapers, you'd come to the office, everybody look at it, oh, it looks good. You'd high five each other, you get a little bit of phone call action or people come to the open house, you thought it did well. You thought it did well. But now you're getting real-time feedback on the spot. We are living in a time, for the first time ever, where it's not about pushing down the consumer's throat, but it's about pulling. See, the funny thing is, and I love to say this, as we go more Jetsons in our lives, the companies and the organizations that act like the Flintstones are gonna be the ones that are most successful. The way I built Wine Library TV and my current businesses is because I listened. I've been talking for a long time, but I listened. The best part of this Q&A today, I'm gonna give you my spiel up here, but the last 15 minutes when we do Q&A and I listen and I give you real answers, it's gonna be the best part of this talk. We've been talking forever. The skill set for our businesses used to be who could do what I do now, stand on a pedestal and push out the message. The businesses that are gonna win going forward are the ones who work the room in a cocktail party, not the ones that give a presentation. It is a two-way street for the first time, and your future homeowners know nothing else. The current people know nothing else. When you look at the demo and the action of the 23 to 40-year-old, their time spent on social networks, it is shocking. And so we are living in a world where we need to be the crossroads of content and analytics. How many people here that have those fan pages actually strategically look at the data to understand what time to post something on Facebook? Very nice, 4 or 5. There's a startup called Prosodic that actually looks at your lifetime value of your fan page, looks at it, and then understands what time to post because you might have a lot of moms in there or a lot of late night workers. When you're pushing out your content, you've got to know when. But more importantly, when you push it out, they start commenting. And way too many brands, 99% of the people in business that have Facebook pages, then put their head in the sand like an ostrich instead of replying. How many people in this room, this one's gonna be a widespread thing, so don't feel bad, because everybody thought this, so don't feel awkward when you say this, but just tell the truth, one way or the other, lying is the devil. How many people in this room, when they first heard of Twitter, or maybe write this, actually, let's go this route. How many people think Twitter is dumb shit? Raise your hand. Shockingly low, actually. I think people are scared of this. I mean, from what everybody that I know, and every time I ask this question, ask people if they think Twitter is stupid, huge numbers. Twitter's actually terrible at telling people what the product is. How many people here use Twitter? Raise your hand. Very low number in comparison to Facebook, about 20%. Twitter stinks at telling their story because the first time every person in this room heard about Twitter, here's what you thought. Why am I gonna get a Twitter account? Who cares if I'm walking the dog, right? What am I gonna say? Eating pizza? Like, what am I going to say? Everybody defaults, every human being and every business defaults into what am I going to say? Besides the texting thing that I want you to go home with, you've gotta promise me just one other thing. When you go back to your hotel room or on your phone after this talk or whatever you're doing, please go to twitter.com/search or search.twitter.com. Twitter.com's search engine is the single most powerful marketing tool in the world, right now. And they never talk about it. Shame on them, they suck. Twitter's search engine, here's what's happening on twitter.com/search. You can search any term in the world, see people's conversations around that term, jump into the conversation, jump in like a cocktail party, and be looked upon as a hero, not a stalker marketer. And that's gonna change, by the way. That will be ruined over the next 5 years. But for the next couple of years, you have the ability to go to twitter.com/search, search in a general area by adding, if you typed in, looking, going to open houses, and then if that's what you want to search, if people say that, because by the way, we're living in the disruption of communication. I'll get to that in a second. You can search home, buying, house, mortgage, whatever term. You guys know your business way better than I looked up Pinot Grigio, Chardonnay, and Bordeaux. You've got different terms. You can then put a space and put NEAR : and a zip code, and not only search those terms, but search people who are talking about those terms within a 10-mile radius of the zip code you put in. So targeted to what you do. You can then watch that and jump into the conversation. Now, here's the problem with Twitter search and marketing like that. 99% of the people that are searching Twitter and jumping in and marketing are acting like 19-year-old dudes. They're trying to close on the first move. I'll let that settle in. If you look at the people that understand the enormous opportunity that Twitter search is, a lot of them, and I'm talking 90% of them, because I look at them all, are jumping in and saying, oh, you mentioned Pinot Grigio? We sell Pinot Grigio. Here's a link to our Pinot Grigio. Oh, you're going to open houses? Come to my open house thing. We've got this. They're jumping in and trying to close. They're putting zero effort into actually having some real conversation. I truly believe that every single person in this room's grandparent is more prepared to be successful going forward than the people in this room. Because the way our grandparents built their business was through context. Everybody thinks about content. I'm obsessed with content. I'll talk to you about needing to do content and why I think every one of you should hire an assistant for $45,000 a year to follow you around with a flip cam and record things and put it out, because you need content. You're creating the humanization of you. You're becoming more of a person out there. And some of you are extroverted and you can use somebody else. That's fine. We can get into those human dynamics. But putting out content really matters. It really, really matters. And many of you might have heard content is king. And I believe content is king. But if content is king, in 2013, context is God. Creating context with the end user is the next battle in selling shit. And here's what I mean by that. Every person in this room, 99% of you didn't know who I was before now. Today, after today, you'll have some context for me. The next time you see my name come across on a morning show or this and that and the other thing, you'll remember, it's context. I'll speak to some of you will ask questions. I'll even have more context with you. The people in the front row, I have more context with because I can see their faces. Beautiful, by the way. So, context matters. You are willing to do things for your parents or your children that you're not willing to do for your best friends. You are willing to do things for your best friends that you're not willing to do for your acquaintances. You're willing to do things for your acquaintances that you're not willing to do for strangers. This is where marketing is going. Twitter.com/search allows you to scale context on the web. A lot of you stand around and you look at little Ricky, 13, 14 years old, and it's a bright 98-degree day, and you're like, go outside, you asshole, right? You want them to go outside, and you're worried that they're gonna be introverted, and they're awkward because they sit in front of a computer all day, and they're not going out. Now, yes, they are gonna be all much fatter and all that, but they are not gonna be more awkward. All of your children and grandchildren are dramatically more social than you are because they create context at scale on these platforms. They have far more relationships than you ever did. You think you're a big shot? When you were 13 back in the day and it was 90 degrees and you went outside and your friends were away, who'd you make friends with? The tire swing fuckers? Jesus. Hate that conversation. Anyway, the fact of the matter is we're living through a connected world. How many people here have reconnected with somebody on Facebook? Most of you are on it, except those 30 special people, and we'll talk to those later. How many of you have reconnected with somebody on Facebook that you had not talked to in over 5 full years? Raise your hand. Almost everybody. How about 10? Almost everybody. How many of you reconnected with a human being that you had not talked to for 2 full decades because of Facebook? More than half this room has reconnected with somebody on Facebook that they had not talked to in 20 years. The way that we used to consume content looked like this. You came home and you sat down and you took out the clicker and you sat on your fat ass and you started watching TV. And when you were watching ESPN, if you bought a local commercial, you might have been able to tell that story to me because I was watching the ball game and I saw it. Or when I woke up in the morning, and I grabbed my cup of coffee, I couldn't wait to open the door and get my newspaper. Remember those things, guys? No. You guys know newspapers, right? You'd grab your newspaper and you'd go through it, right? Or, when you were driving to work, you would listen to the radio instead of your iPad. All those things are being disrupted. All the ways we told our messages and the way we consumed content is being disrupted. An enormous amount of you, even while you're listening to this talk, several of you are doing it right now, are now consuming in a stream economy on your phone. We're taking out our phones, and we go to our Facebook or our Twitter or our Pinterest or our Tumblr, and I won't get too nerdy, and we do this. We consume. The world is going into a stream economy. You go like this. When you go to your Facebook profile, you go like this. We're consuming content, micro content, at speed in this environment. Your future customers consume content like this on a phone, not like this on a television. How many people here DVR or TiVo or on demand the far majority of the television they watch? Raise your hand. Almost all of it. How many of you, just curious for 2000, this is more for me and my corporate customer jerk-offs, how many of you in 2012 actually fast forwarded every single commercial? Raise your hand. My clients are spending hundreds of millions of dollars producing and buying those commercials. 84% of you haven't watched one of them this year. We always do this. We didn't buy Blockbuster. We were Borders and gave Amazon our distribution because we thought they were stupid. Who's stupid now, right? We thought, we told you, don't drive that car, it's dangerous. Drive my awesome horse, Harry. How'd that work out? Bad. And we continue to do this. Remember email? Guys, remember 1994, 1995 when you first heard coo, remember that? Remember that? Let's step out of my keynote for a second. We were paying like $2-3 a minute. That shit was fucked up. Anyway, remember that? Do you remember how much you loved email? Do you remember how much you were confused by email in 96 and 97? I remember the first time I was like, holy crap, they have to charge for this eventually. I better get as many emails out as possible because there's no way that I'm never gonna write a letter again, and I haven't. I mean, it's nice to do it because you care about something, but when's the last time you actually wrote a letter for like a utility purpose, not to try to be nice? I mean, that's over. Disruption, post office, out of business, right? We're just paying for it out of our tax dollars to keep it alive, out of business. We are living through massive disruption. We loved email. They made a movie called You've Got Mail. We loved it. We couldn't believe how awesome it was. It was efficient. You stayed in touch with your kids and your grandkids. We loved email. Just curious, how do you guys like email now? You hate it. You know why? Because there's one thing I know more than the sun comes up tomorrow. Marketers and salespeople ruin everything. Everything I believe in and everything I wrote in my last book, The Thank You Economy, and everything I'm talking about right here will be ruined in 5 years. You've got 5 years to execute Twitter search and jump in and have a conversation. Because Twitter search, jumping in, do you know how many times I answered what wine goes with fish? 87,000 times. Do you know what that feels like? Terrible. But it created context because what we're all trying to do in this two-way street now is it's no longer about you talking. It's no longer about you pushing your notice down the consumer's throat. It's no longer you posting your new listings or your new projects on your Facebook page and just hoping it's gonna get out there. You now have to create context to get them into a place where they actually will care about what you're pushing out. Because we're living in a world where there's so much content being pushed at us that it is absurd. The amount of data, the content that is being pushed out by human beings in every 48-hour window now. Every song, written word, picture, billboard, every piece of content that we put out, every email, in every 48 hours in today is equivalent to the size of stuff that we pushed out as people from the beginning of time until 2003. Let me just say that one more time. I want you to hold the hands of the people next to you so we can go kumbaya on this shit. The amount of messaging and content and propaganda and marketing and information that we push out in every 48 hours is equivalent to the amount of content we put out from the beginning of mankind until 2003, according to Eric Schmidt, chairman of Google. So what? You think your full-page newspaper ad's gonna break through? You think your awesome little jingle on the radio is gonna break through? You think your direct mail is gonna break through, your billboard? It's noisy. No wonder our kids have ADD. There's so much being thrown at them. We don't break through, we don't sit down, we don't do the things. Everything got fast. Everything's exhaustingly fast, and you know it. You're living through this. Do you know that some of you, including myself, actually think it's awkward when somebody calls you? I actually now, in 2012, when somebody calls me, am taken aback and thinking it's very serious or weird. Why didn't they just text me? Think about how many times either you or somebody did this to you, where you called somebody or somebody called you, they let it run through, and then they texted you, what? Guys, listen to me, and this is all about selling shit. Just remember that this is the context of this. I didn't have a computer until I was 20 years old. I did not grow up techie, I don't care about it. I told you my first job was lemonade stands. I was embarrassed to tell you, but I'm gonna tell you the honesty. Actually, at 4 years old, before I was 5, my first business was to go into people's yards, rip their flowers out of their yard, ring their doorbell, and sell it back to them. I am not Mother Teresa. I'm here to sell stuff. The reason I love all this Zen stuff and care about your customer and listen and actually care about them, and the things we do at Wine Library, that when you buy wine from winelibrary.com, we try to match your name to your Twitter profile to know who you are outside of what you buy to wine. Outside, we know from data that you buy Pinot Noir, but who are you? We know the social graph. Facebook has mapped the social graph, meaning we now know who your friends and acquaintances are. Facebook has that data. But what the next big frontier is about, how many ladies in the room are on Pinterest? Raise your hand. Good job. How many dudes in the room have never heard of Pinterest? Don't lie. What's next interesting about Pinterest and Tumblr is we've mapped the social graph, but now the thing to really know about and where you're gonna sell more homes is understanding the consumer's interest graph. Who are you outside of the data we have? Sure, you could buy a mailing list of $150,000 income people, but what if you really knew I was a diehard Jets fan, and that I loved Randy the Macho Man Savage, and that I adore root beer, and that Lionel Richie is the man? What if you knew that he's underrated? If you knew that about me, you'd have a much better chance of getting my business. My friend bought a $3.9 million apartment the other day in Manhattan because he sent out a tweet that he was looking for a new apartment. And the 3 real estate agents that hit him up and got interviewed are the ones that one of them got the business. He didn't go on Google. Search is dead. Search is dead in the next 10 years. You don't want to go and find wine terms based on somebody who knew how to do SEO. You want to get your wine recommendations from me because you have context knowing that I know wine. We are going into human stuff. We are going back to small town rules, where when you were in a small town, Betty told you that the baker down the street was good. We are reconnected to people that we had not had relationships with for 20 years. And communication, not just music. We know music was disrupted. We know CDs are dead. We know you download it. We know iTunes happened. We agree that publishing has been disrupted. How many people here have a Kindle or iPad and read their books on that now? Raise your hand. A lot. You're the same fuckers that aren't even on Facebook, and that's a lot. So think about this. A lot of you that loved books are now on Kindle and this. How many people here had, at one point, read newspapers for over 10 years in a row, like we're a newspaper person, but now because iPad or phone or computer no longer get the newspaper? Just for context, raise your hand. 30% of you read papers every day for 10 years plus or more and now don't. The eyeballs and ears are all we care about. Our story to the consumer is all we care about. We want them to know about our projects and we want them to go and check them out. There's a much better way to do it. Fish where the fish are, and understand you have to respect the fish. The deers have shotguns now, my friends. They do. And you've got to respect them. You're not going to trick them. How about getting authentically in front of it? Wine Library TV success, that I started a wine show of wines that I sold in my store, and 62% of them, of the thousands that I reviewed over the 5 years that I did the show, I told people tasted like horse piss and not to buy. That builds trust. That builds authenticity. Telling people about other things besides how beautiful the marble is, about the neighborhood, storytelling about the schools, storytelling about the contractor who's your competitor that's building a shopping mall that's gonna bring more value. Giving them as much information, content, but creating context, because what if one of you stepped up and helped people actually understand mortgages or how to really get a loan? What if you really cared? What if businesses, because of the way the world's going, had to actually, for the first time in about 100 years, started really caring about the people they sold their business to? What if you stopped renting attention by taking your working money and putting it on billboards and newspapers and TV ads and direct mail, all of shit that is declining in front of your faces in attention and opportunity? And what if you took those dollars in hiring people to manage your social networks, to listen to customers, to engage with them, and to create an actual relationship? And I mean with your logo. I'm a businessman. I'm not talking about building up Karen or Susan in your organization and having them tweet under their organization. I'm talking about humanizing your logo. Whatever your company's called or the project's called, putting that account on the web and talking as the brand. Because we're living through a part where people are willing to talk to brands. We're living through the humanization of logos, where people are literally replying to brands. Lipton Brisk Iced Tea is a client of ours. When you're an iced tea, what do you say on Facebook and Twitter? I'm wet? Sugary? What do you say? What we decided was we had the data on who our customers were. Young, male, urban. So we started talking about basketball. And we started talking about hip hop. We talked about how fat Nicki Minaj's ass was. That's what we talked about. And guess what happened? People actually cared about that, and we engaged with them. As a matter of fact, it's actually ironic. I just remembered, today's the NBA draft, right? You like the Nicki Minaj thing? That was good, right? Thanks, man. It was disrespectful, I apologize. Anyway, today is the NBA draft. Last year's NBA draft, because we built up context and talked to people about basketball, last year's NBA draft, Lipton Brisk Iced Tea was the 4th most talked about brand during the NBA draft because people actually replied, hey Brisk, what do you think about the Kyrie Irving pick? Prompted, because we created context. Lipton Brisk spent $0 in giving any dollars to ESPN or the NBA to be a sponsor of the NBA draft, yet we had more conversation and more ownership of it because we put in the work. You guys love your parents because they loved you first. We are living in a world where we have to care about our customer before the conversion. We have to start running marathons and not sprints. Not because we're Zen and we're such good people and we're Mother Teresa, but because there's going to be no other option. Because you will not be able to be in business if you do not go down that route. Because you will not have enough money to spend to pound your message down the throat because the customer won't see it. Do you guys remember Groupon and Living Social and all those deal of days stuff? How many of you signed up for some of those email services? Just curious, give me context. About half of you. Remember? You couldn't wait to get $40 worth of sushi for 20 bucks. 3 years ago, you couldn't wait to get your nails done for 15 instead of 30. But they spammed you so hard and cared about you so little that now you delete those emails the second they come in. You don't care about those emails anymore. It was the biggest companies and they crashed in 3 years because all of you in this room, with all due respect, and me too, every business person cares about one thing, acquisition. You want to acquire customers. And that's why you spend all the money you spend on trying to get them. We all care about acquisition, but the businesses that understand retention and lifetime value are going to be the ones that succeed. How many of you feel that you've sold a home because of word of mouth in your career? That because you sold something and somebody had a good experience, they told somebody, and you either sold one within that same development or maybe in a different project? Just raise your hands, give me some context. So about half of you feel that you've sold homes because of word of mouth. I think the other half of you are missing it because I think you have, but you just may not realize it or track it or care to be in tune to it. Number two, word of mouth in today's world is on steroids. Word of mouth today is on steroids. Word of mouth is hanging out with Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens. I don't care that they got acquitted. Those fuckers did it. Word of mouth is now on steroids. Here's why. I'm gonna sum it all up in a nice bow. Every one of you have been reconnected to somebody that you haven't talked to in 20 or 30 or 40 years. You are now seeing their comments, mainly baby pictures and other things of that nature. But the one thing that we have not talked about is that communication has been disrupted itself. The way we talk to each other has changed. Anybody here an English major? Raise your hand. I'm so sorry for the 5 of you. You guys must be really upset. I mean, the run-on sentences, nobody can spell anymore. Have you seen this? There are grown-ass men in this room that literally texted the other day, LOL. Communication has fundamentally been disrupted. The way we talk and communicate has been disrupted. And so now we are doing things that we used to do in small towns. We are sharing things on social networks that are dumb minutia that we would have never picked up the phone and called about. None of your friends 10 years ago would have picked up the phone and called you and said, this Snickers is delicious. But every one of you that's on Facebook can now rewind in your mind and think of a time or two where one of your friends, most likely somebody you hadn't talked to in 20 years or 15, but that you have context to because you roomed with them in college or went on a trip with them, or you have some emotional context with them that's greater than a commercial or a print ad, and they said something like, moving into my new home, love this place, or I love Pinkberry yogurt, or screw you Target, I'm never shopping with you again. We are creating brand awareness and micro commercials for each other at scale, and it will continue. Our children and our children's children, and even the 20 to 30-year-old demo, which are all going to be in your market now or shortly, are being disrupted and thinking about the way they do business through these channels. They are communicating in a different way. They are consuming the information in a different place. And the brands that understand the cross-section of creative content and analytics in digital platforms that are relevant and where the awareness is will win. Let me give you an example that's gonna really hit home to maybe who you're targeting. How many people here, don't lie, lying is the devil, watch or have watched in their lives soap operas? Raise your hand. God, I love dudes. Sir, Guiding Light? One Life to Live? Days of Our Lives. Good shit. Listen, I'm with you, man. Storytelling. Soap operas. From the beginning of communication, soap operas have worked. They started off as radio. People used to stand around a radio back in the day and listen to The Guiding Light. Started off as a radio show. And would sit there and be like, that's some scandalous shit. They liked it, right? It was good. Then it came to television, and it won. It fought off game shows, reality TV. It fought off Oprah. It fought off everything. It fought off every transition over the last 70 years of content to capture 25 to 55-year-old female demo and some stragglers. And it dominated. And it dominated. Soap operas, if you're an enthusiast, you now realize are basically now out of business. Why? Why have soap operas gone out of business in the last 4 or 5 years? Ready for this? Farmville. How many of you are familiar with Farmville? Farmville is a game that exploded on Facebook. And I'm saying Farmville because I mean casual gaming. Farmville is a game at its height 2 years ago that had 80 million active daily users. And when you look at their data, between noon Eastern and 4 p.m. Pacific, the amount of 25 to 55-year-old women that played Farmville was staggering. And so Procter & Gamble and Unilever and all the companies that market to women said to themselves, why are we spending our money on buying commercials on Days of Our Lives? Why aren't we buying virtual currency in Farmville? To give context to a lot of you that don't know what Farmville is, it's a game within Facebook where you built a virtual farm and you fed your virtual cow and you planted your virtual corn. And people spent 4 to 5 hours a day on this and spent real money, real $3, to buy $3 worth of fucking virtual corn. And everybody's shaking their head and saying, what the hell? We need to understand that during the Great Depression, the two biggest markets during the Great Depression where money went was makeup and the circus. During the Great Depression. You know why? We're humans. This is all psychology. We need escapes from the reality. We need Farmville. We need the movies. We need Days of Our Lives. We need WWF wrestling. We need sports. We need music. We need movies. We need it. Because there's a lot of crazy shit going on. We need to decompress. We need to understand that we are living through the biggest culture shift of our time. You're gonna walk into your refrigerator in a couple of years, and you're gonna open it, and your refrigerator is gonna be a smart refrigerator, just like your phone's a smartphone now. You know how this is different than the brick that we used to walk around with 8 years ago? Remember that? This is different than this, right? You're gonna walk into your fridge, and your fridge is gonna understand that you're a Pepsi drinker. And when you pull out your last Pepsi, because it's scanning it, it's gonna order it for you directly, and it's gonna be delivered to your home. Smart refrigerators. Do you know who that's bad for? Walmart, Costco, Target. I think we're massively underestimating how big this culture shift is. For you to not start, I mean, guys, please, this platforms, this internet and social networks has overthrown governments in the Middle East who've had dictatorships on their people for 40 fucking years, and you're gonna sit in this ballroom and have the audacity to think that this is not affecting your business? Shame on you. This is happening, and I'm telling you right now, just like when I talked at a conference in 1997, and the guy before me said that nobody would ever put their credit cards into a computer, and everybody clapped, and then I came out and said, hey, I think people are gonna buy wine on the computer, and everybody booed me. I said, you fuckers are gonna lose. And I know something else, because I'm a business person. The fact that you're here during what just went you through, the fact that you're here after the fact of what you guys just went through over the last 3 or 4 years in your market, and that you're here means you guys are winning players. And as a winning player in the wine business, when I shifted and understood where the world was really going and went all in on that, I became even a better winning player. I'm convinced that the people that are in this room, that you have the DNA to be successful in this market, that if you shift and understand, yeah, it's tried and true, it's branding, you can charge back your agents, all that stuff, start storytelling about 2013. Start understanding that if you want to reach your customers, you've got to attack. Start understanding that there's real data behind these Facebook ads, not buying Facebook ads that are targeted to people around high wealth in your demo by zip code that they can click and share with their friends is insane being in your business right now. Every single person is on this, there's 900 million people on Facebook. There's only 30 known people to not be on Facebook in the world. It's ironic that they're all here. You can pay 81 cents to get a click. If you're buying Google ads, you have to buy Facebook ads. You have to understand why they're different. It's not search intent, it's interest related. You have to look into that. But you have to understand that effort is where we need to go, that this is the biggest culture shift of our time, and that the fact that you're sitting here, this is what brought me to want to really do this talk. The fact that you made it here, the fact that you're not like the other 20,000 people that were here 5 years ago that are gone and lost, means you're better. And what I'm hoping is that one fucker in this room listens to me and gets inspired and goes and does it because they're gonna win. She or he is going to win because we're living through the biggest culture shift. You have no idea how you're spending your marketing dollars. You're not tracking billboards and print and radio. It's tough to understand the conversions of it. And by the way, let me just say this in my closing, and then we'll do Q&A, because I was way up here and I'd love to come down to the trenches and answer 3 or 4 of your questions to make this more practical. But let me say this, I believe in traditional media. I do think that billboards and print and magazines and radios has a place in our society. The problem is, they're overpriced. These companies are overpriced. They're charging you more because they have less. You're the last suckers paying to keep it alive. I'm being serious. And you know what? I see a lot of you shaking your head. You know why? Because you guys are business people and you fucking get it. But you're so stuck in the way you do it and what's comfortable. And you've got other things to do and you don't understand it. You didn't grow up with all this technology, right? Well, guess what? Neither did I. Guess what? You didn't grow up driving and you fucking figured it out. Your 2-year-old grandson is doing this shit. I think you can do it. And unlike the 20-year-olds that are whiz kids and everybody wants to be Zucks, you guys have built real business. Outside of the people that I actually hang out with every day who are gonna change the world and don't even know how to run a P&L, you guys know how to run businesses. This isn't your first rodeo. All I'm asking you to do is not worry about what you don't know, bet on yourself and what you do know, and recognize that what made you successful long ago was you doing something different than your competitors. You've got to do it again or somebody's going to take it. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to watch all of you. And if none of you do it over the next 12 months, I'm coming into this industry and I'm putting all you fuckers out of business. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So here we go. Let's just give it up one more time for Gig, because that was freaking amazing. Now, what he's gonna do, he said this before, and most speakers don't do this. He said this before. We're gonna do some Q&A afterwards, so you guys can hang out and listen to the answers. Real problems, real challenges, real solutions. Everybody who's leaving, that's okay. We're gonna figure out how to steal your customers. It's gonna be great. Okay. So let's start off with a question. Yes, you sir in the back with the beautiful
Go to
hat.
him with the mic.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Hang on.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Grab the mic so everybody hears you. I can hear you. I have tremendous ears.
You've talked a lot about Facebook, but have said nothing about LinkedIn.
Yeah.
For many of us, LinkedIn is B2B and Facebook is for the kids.
Sure.
Whether or not we're right, in your opinion, would you elaborate?
That's a great question. I appreciate that. And that's why this fires me so, you fucking fire me up, sir. Thank you for asking that, because you could see subconsciously I'm not thinking a whole lot about LinkedIn, because to me it's a utility, not a social network. But we're all practical business people here and we like utility. Let me give you something that's amazing. Can we give the mic back to that gentleman? Because I'm sure a lot of people are thinking the same way. A lot of you are B2B, I did a lot of B2C stuff, and I'm gonna give you some good stuff right now. What's your name, sir?
Arthur Young.
Arthur, I really appreciate it. Arthur, you're trying to use LinkedIn to get to the people that are making the business decisions because you do business with them, right?
Correct.
Let me tell you the greatest shit that you've ever heard in your life, Arthur. Ready?
I'm willing.
LinkedIn has about 35% now of accounts, of people's LinkedIn accounts that are linking to either Facebook or Twitter. that people link their accounts on other social networks within LinkedIn. I actually think LinkedIn in a B2B world used to be something I wasn't passionate about, that I've gotten much more passionate about, because let me give you a scenario of how I do business, because I'm trying to reach CMOs and big business people as well. The ability for you to find the person on LinkedIn that you want to do business with, and then, this is 1 out of every 3 times, so it's not gonna happen every time, but over time, it was only 8% before, so it's growing. For you to be able to follow that person on Twitter and see their public feed, for your demo, I'm gonna guess more people are linked to Facebook. So it's gonna be a little harder because you're gonna have to go to Facebook and then ask them to be a friend. When you do, write a little email in there. When you ask for a friend request, you can write something. I'm Arthur Young, I wear tremendous hats, I wanna do business with you, whatever it may be, right? You tell them the context. On Twitter, you can just follow them and then watch what they have to say. Arthur, this is not your first rodeo, right? It's not mine either,
Correct.
right? You know as well as I do as a salesperson, the more you know about your buyer, the better chance you have to sell, right? It's why you went fishing with somebody once. It's why you went, I get excited, I have to slow off. It's why you went fishing with somebody once. It's why you took them out to dinner and bought them a fucking steak. It's why you did all those things, right? Now, in your underpants at home, you can collect more context and understand who they are than all that you had to do before. It's all about speed and accelerating, right? The fact that I can sit at home, the fact that when I fly now for 6 hours back east, I'll be able to do that on a plane, not have to physically do it, allows me to scale and have bigger upside. Arthur, you should go to every person that you're looking for on LinkedIn, follow them on Facebook and Twitter. Twitter, you don't need their permission, it's more of a public thing. Facebook, you'll have to ask for a request. What you write should not be bullshit, it should be from the heart, maybe you know them. And then it gets interesting, Arthur. Over the next couple of months, weeks, days, whatever time frame you have the ability to collect data on that person. They might be a Bears fan. I told you earlier that Wine Library is trying to figure out, my wine business, who customers are. We know this one guy was a Bordeaux buyer, but when we linked him up, we realized 2 years ago, because he kept talking about Jay Cutler and the Bears, that he was a Bears fan. I told my thank you department, which is not my customer service department. Customer service is defense. My thank you department, that's offense. I told them to go to eBay and buy a signed Jay Cutler jersey for this guy and send him a note and thank him for his business. The jersey almost cost as much as the profit we made on the entire first order. We sent it to him, didn't hear shit for 3 months. 3 months later, he says, hey, just wanted to email you guys, thank you so much. I'm a hedge fund guy in Chicago. I've been really busy. I wanted you to know that I got the Jay Cutler jersey. How did you know? I just want you to know I've spent $100,000 on my wine collection at a store here in Chicago called Sam's Wine. I walk in there, they don't even know who I am. This effort means a lot to me. Please know that you're gonna get the rest of my business for the rest of my life. Not only that, and he's been a $50,000 customer since then, nice investment for $400, but we've gotten 17 individual orders that in the comments section, they mentioned the story about the friend who told them about us because we emotionally hit his heart, not his wallet and his head. We are living through an EQ emotional revolution, and these platforms allowed us to do that. You start following those people that make those buying decisions for your materials or whatever business you're in, and you start understanding who they really are. You understand that they put out a picture with their grandson that says first day of school for Timmy, and you send an email saying, hey Craig, just wanna wish Timmy a great first day at preschool. That shit matters. And when you start really understanding how to map that, and this is my big belief why women are gonna take over business, because it's more emotional, not like us jerk off dudes, though I'm a little girly, that's why I'm gonna win too. Anyway, once you understand how to do that, that's how we do business in 2013.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, who else we got? Questions, comments, brilliant statements, go ahead.
Don't be scared.
Yeah, here we go, front
Just
row,
right up
running
here.
to you.
What's up, man? How are you?
Okay, so
What's your name?
Mark.
Mark.
So amazing content. You're fucking awesome.
Thanks, man.
So 3 take-homes, like 3 things, 3 action items that
Yeah.
the group of 1,000 here
Yeah.
can say, okay, these are the things that you should do.
How many people in here B2B? Raise your hand. And the rest B2C, for the most part? And things rather. Okay, so 3 action items. These things are always tricky. Here's the one thing. You can't run a marathon without being a runner, without starting to walk on a treadmill. Every person in this room has to start walking on a treadmill. If you're not on Facebook, get on it. If you're not on Twitter, get on it. Start understanding what these things are. If you do not have digital fitness in 2012, you're dead in 2016. You think shit's crazy now? Right across the street, Google just announced Google Glasses. Wait till every single person you know in 6 years is wearing a pair of glasses where they're seeing information about you and you know how you look at Yelp now? How about when you look at a store and it's giving you information in your glasses? Guys, we're all going robot. It's happening. I'm so pumped that I think it's gonna take a little bit of time and I'm not gonna be here, but the robots are gonna get us. It's inevitable. You know, most of us won't see it. First, digital fitness. 2, understand that Facebook fan pages are not about being a newsletter. Everybody's treating social media like email newsletters. You're just pushing. Understand that consumers are willing to give us insight. Some of you can use this as decisions on how you actually build your own homes. I mean, when you make decisions, maybe you are overestimating how much people care about marble or fake grass or shower heads or whatever the fuck, I don't know your business, but you know what I mean, right? You know, I knew that Australia was coming because I listened. I knew that people were gonna drink Malbec from Argentina because I listened, and then I bet, and we made money. You can listen, people are gonna give you data. People are gonna give you data if you ask questions. What are you looking for in a home? What's the biggest problem with your home? Where do you wanna move? What do you like? So, number 2, understand that Facebook fan pages are at scale, that spending $5,000 or $10,000 on some Facebook ads to get some people in there, because don't forget, it's opt-in. You're not paying for impressions. It's follow this brand is a great idea. I think that for most of you, you should buy them around the project, the development, more so than this corporate name that doesn't mean anything to anybody. And then understand once you have that Facebook fan page that you need to hire somebody that understands it. And that doesn't mean some random 19-year-old, because they used Facebook to look at bikini pictures, not to sell shit, right? But maybe there's a 19-year-old that gets it. Anyway, and then realize it's not an email service. You don't just blast your new listings or how cool you are, or how great it is, or you lowered the price or you raised the price. You make it a two-way thing. You put content, maybe you record. Guys, so many of you, because you're winning players, I know so many of you do it right in here, that you put the extra effort, that where your competitors are taking shortcuts, you're laying better quality X, better quality Y. Film that. Nobody believes you. I don't believe you. I don't believe that you used better brick. Show me the fucking invoice. You know, authenticity really matters. There's a real opportunity here. If you have the best masons, the best architects, show them. Make that piece of content. It costs nothing. Don't worry about lighting or makeup. Nobody cares. Authentic content matters. Think about that. And then number 3, audit every dollar you're spending on traditional stuff and try to challenge yourself if you have any true belief that it's bringing you results. How do you measure it? You can't, it's hard. How do you measure a billboard? It's awareness, it's branding, I'm in. But how about awareness and branding to the actual people that matter now? I mean, fundamentally, the traditional platforms are marketing to people that are probably one more home in their life stream, probably, you know, into a home that is not what you're in the business of. So it's insane to me that people are marketing like it's 2002, but then I get reminded why so many companies go out of business. They get stuck, they don't move, innovation tramples them, and they're gone. But I'm inspired because I know that the people in this room are creme de la creme and should understand what the hell I'm talking about, or at least be inspired to maybe look a little deeper, or maybe now say, maybe that young guy or gal in my office isn't so dumb after all. This isn't Zen. This isn't tech. This is culture. This is the way we live. You text with your kids now. You didn't want to, right? We didn't want to do anything that we're doing now, but we're doing it because we have to, right? And you know this because you're the generation, a lot of you, that lived through the music revolution where like the music that you listened to, your parents wanted to kill them. People thought Elvis was the devil because he shook his hips. Culture shifts, right? I mean, President Clinton, I call this the Gary Hart rule. Remember Gary Hart? Ran for president? One picture of him with some floozy on the cover of the Inquirer, dead. 4 years later, Clinton banging everybody, nobody cares, right? But the only thing that was hurting Clinton was that he inhaled weed. 8 years later, Obama admits to doing coke, doesn't affect him. So our culture shifts and our world changes. And there's too many people in here who want it to be something that it's not. This isn't about you. This is about selling shit. Start doing the right thing.
Hey, Gary, can I call someone out?
Yeah.
Okay, Kevin Oakley, stand up for me. First thing Kevin says to me when he comes here, he goes, guess what, Mike? This is what I'm about to do. I'm about to pay 80 grand to some guy to be a full-time videographer for my builder.
Yeah.
Right there. Are you gonna do it? You're gonna do it now. What do you think about that? I mean, you were just talking about that. What do you think he needs to do?
I think he's a handsome man, first of all. Kevin, why are you doing that? Give him the mic. Why'd you tell him that? What's your thinking? Where are you at?
We're a higher end custom builder, and so
what does that mean?
spending
Average?
spending the extra 45 grand for the guy who can edit and make even though it's authentic and real, produce truly higher content that's more enjoyable.
Just make one smart decision, do a mix. There's a place for 3D avatar, and there's a place for Wine Library TV, ghetto, no lighting, no sound. When he's editing, the cutting room floor, what I call sawdust, realize and position him to realize that that's micro content, and you could put that out on Pinterest, Facebook, Twitter. Because the thing with long form content, it's heavier to share. And what you're looking for, all of you, is awareness for your projects. So a 3-second, 10-second video on Facebook that somebody will share and then all their friends will see is far more interesting as a fast-moving piece of content.
Okay, so since Mike already called me out, I'm no longer scared of you.
Okay.
I have a really good question.
Yeah.
A lot of builders have quality control issues.
Okay.
Right? And our screw-ups become major screw-ups.
Okay.
Because it's really hard and expensive to go back and fix it.
Yes.
So what I told my builder about a year and a half ago was, I want to go down the route that you're describing. You've got a year and a half to fix it before everyone's going to know. And I guess that's my concern for other sales and marketing guys here is their lack of control on upper management truly caring about the customer and understanding that it may be better to spend 100 grand to fix a mistake than to spend 100 grand on billboards or newspapers.
You're preaching, brother. I'm on calls once a month with major Fortune 500 $100 billion companies who get me on the phone and saying, people are coming to our Facebook wall, take care of this, da-da-da. I'm like, well, first of all, before we do anything, are we wrong? Well, yeah, but let's fix this. I'm like, it's not 2002 anymore. It's not let's hold our breath and hope nobody writes about it. It's let's not hope that somebody somehow got to the local news. Everybody's media today. Remember the big story when MySpace came out? It was like, don't let your girls on it because everybody's gonna get raped at the mall and this and that. Fact of the matter is, in the last 6 years, child crime has collapsed. You know why? Every one of you are media now. Nobody can kidnap anymore because we all have cameras on us and we're gonna take pictures of the license plate. The crooks know that the shadows of our society are getting taken away. But here's the problem. One way or the other, whether you do this kind of marketing or not, they're gonna be talking about you. They're gonna be sharing the information, they're gonna be making videos of your cracked floor or your shower head or your water pipe, whatever the fuck you guys do, right? So whether with or without you, this is gonna happen. Upper management's gonna care when their face is splattered all over the place as being a jerk off because they don't care about their customers. Everybody only reacts after they get bit, right? And that's fine, I get it. Fact of the matter is, the biting is about to happen. That's what the deer with the guns thing I was trying to tell you about. This is not, oh, I hope this doesn't happen. This is happening. It's gonna really happen. And I highly recommend you go figure out your business model in a world that looks like this, because this is the world. So I deal with the 68-year-old CEOs of Fortune 500s who make 83 billion and have G5s and think they don't give a fuck. And the fact of the matter is, I tell them every day, you're gonna lose, and it happens. You look at the guy from Hewlett Packard, right? Got fired because somebody took a picture of the note he sent that girl. This is happening. This is real. This isn't just, Dateline, why did you build shit? And one person gets exposed ever. This is everybody at scale getting exposed for this stuff. And the scariest part is, the generation that's controlling this at some level right now still isn't fully aware of how powerful this is. Your kids, they don't give a shit. They're gonna call out everything and everybody at every time, and it's gonna be 24/7, 365, and people are gonna listen to them. When your friend says, that restaurant sucked, you're not going. When your friend says that wasn't delicious, you're not tasting it. We really value the context, which is why I want you to get ahead of it, instead of being a turtle and waiting for the shit to hit the fan.
Thank you.
Thank you. How are you, my friend?
Hi, pretty good. Good morning.
Morning. What's your name? What's your name?
Roberto.
Roberto. Nice to meet you, man.
The question that I have, you talk about a lot of the personal touch. So what I'm trying to say is, what about the people who are higher ups who don't believe on Facebook?
Yep.
How you got to those people?
Yeah.
Because to me, the way to get to those people is having that relationship with the people actually doing the work.
Yeah.
Is that a good concept?
Yeah, for me, I've always worked for myself, so it's easier, right? A lot of people ask me all the time, like, Gary, I so believe in this, I read your books, I'm into this, I believe in social, but I work for this guy, he'll never believe. Like, how do I get to him? I'm like, leave. And I know that's not practical, we have mortgages and payments and all those things, but this is a DNA thing. Either your upper brass gets it or they don't. You give them your most heartfelt rant, give them as much data and reasoning. There's plenty of data of like, if you're on a Facebook fan page, you're 20% more likely to buy. There's tons of things you can look up. You give them your most honest, authentic presentation in the way that you think they'll consume it, and you do your best. But the fact of the matter is, some people are very stubborn. Some people don't want to believe. Some people are at the tail end of their career and don't want to reinvest. They just want to pull everything out. There's a million things. Some people are going through divorces and don't have the money. Some people don't care. There's a billion things that are happening. You need to audit your actual individual thing. If you really believe in this, get all the data and compelling information that you want to sell against it to tell them why this is important, and then they're going to make a decision. There's nothing to be scared of. You tell them. By the way, I've told, back in the day when it was more about this in 07, 08, I kept telling everybody, be on the right side of history. Tell everybody in your organization, if you get fired, you're gonna get rehired in 3 years and have a bigger job. And I get hundreds of emails like that a day where people left or got fired and now are getting rehired because they fired their boss's boss or a competitor hired them, because being right is always right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, final point. What's the takeaway for today? What do you think?
Do shit.
I like that.
Thank you.
Let's give it up.